sky had darkened, and a light drizzle blurred everything in sight. In a small alley, David lived in a run-down, shabby house. At 23, he was a poor senior university student, burdened by his father's debt. A man notorious for past scams and deceit. Debt collectors frequently came knocking, plunging their lives into deeper misery. David had often thought about quitting school to work full-time, but held on with the hope of changing his future. One rainy afternoon, David received a call from an unknown number. The caller introduced herself as Anna, inviting him to a fancy cafe to discuss something important related to his family. David was hesitant, but eventually agreed to meet Anna, a wealthy woman around 75 years old with a slender frame. She appeared elegant, yet her eyes held the sharpness of someone hardened by decades in the business world. Carefully applied makeup made her look much younger than her age. As soon as David sat down, Anna got straight to the point. She said, "Do you want to pay off your father's debt and have enough money to secure your future?" David was stunned by the abrupt opening. He couldn't understand how a complete stranger knew so much about his situation. He asked, "Who are you? And how do you know so much about my family?" Anna calmly replied, "I have my ways. What matters is that I can help you. But in return, I need you to agree to one condition." David: "What condition?" Anna set her coffee cup down, her gaze locking onto his with authority. "I've lived this long without ever having a husband or children. I'm very lonely. I want to experience what it feels like to have a husband, to have companionship. I want you to marry me and become my legal husband." David was shocked, nearly dropping the coffee spoon in his hand. He couldn't believe what he'd just heard. A woman old enough to be his grandmother wanted to marry him. "You must be joking. Why me?" he asked. Anna replied without hesitation, "I'm not joking. I chose you because you're young, unattached, and have nothing to lose. I don't need you to truly love me. I just need someone by my side, someone who will follow my requests without asking questions." David sat silently, trying to piece together everything she was saying. He wanted to say no, but the thought of his father's crushing debt, something that had weighed on them for years, gave him pause. David asked cautiously, "So, if I agree, what exactly will I get?" Anna replied, "I'll pay off your father's entire debt, cover all your school expenses, and when I pass away, everything I own will be yours. You'll never have to worry about money again." It was an incredibly tempting offer, but something about it felt dangerous. David sensed there was more to her plan than she was letting on, but he couldn't figure out what. He asked, "If I accept, what are your conditions?" Anna responded, "You just need to be my husband, live with me, and never betray or get involved with anyone else until I die. Everything I own will be yours. That's all." David hesitated. He felt cornered, but thinking about his father, he realized he didn't have many options. He looked over at the elderly woman. At her age, maybe he only had to give up a few years of his youth. Who knew? Maybe within a year or two she would pass, and he'd be free. Taking a leap of faith, David said, "All right, I agree." A few days later, a simple wedding was held. Only a handful of close acquaintances and a few friends attended. David and Anna stood before an altar and exchanged vows. Still, news of this strange wedding spread quickly. In the village, people whispered and speculated, puzzled as to why a young man would marry someone as old as Anna. Some praised him, others criticized. Some said David was a gold digger, marrying for money. Others mocked Anna for being so rich she'd gone mad, chasing after young men. Still, others said David was paying off his father's debts with his own life. The once quiet village buzzed with rumors and gossip. On their wedding night, David entered the room to find Anna sitting silently, her eyes cold. Anna said, "You don't need to act uncomfortable. Just live here in peace. And eventually, you'll understand my true intentions." That sentence sent a chill down David's spine. He had no idea he was stepping into a relationship full of tangled secrets and shocking revelations that lay ahead. The day after the wedding, David officially moved into Anna's mansion. From a small, rundown house in the countryside, he now found himself in a vast, luxurious estate. The thought that this entire property could be his in a few years gave him a fleeting sense of joy. But despite the opulence, he couldn't shake the cold, unsettling feeling that lingered inside him. David tried his best to adapt to his new surroundings. However, Anna remained distant. Though they lived under the same roof, she kept her distance and only showed up during meals or when something important needed to be addressed. The mansion was spacious but eerily quiet. A few housekeepers moved silently through the halls. "One day," David asked. Honey, why is this house so empty?" Anna responded coldly. "I live alone. My family's all gone. The kids are settled overseas. Just focus on your own responsibilities. You don't need to worry about anything else." David didn't dare to ask further. Every night, he tried to start a conversation, but Anna always avoided him. At times, it felt like she deliberately changed the subject whenever he brought up her past. 3 days later, Anna called David into her office and placed a thick stack of documents in front of him. She spoke clearly and firmly. "Sign these. They're legal documents related to your father's assets and debts." David was stunned. "Assets? What does that have to do with me? My father said the debts were all paid off." Anna replied calmly. "I paid them, but I need your signature to legalize everything. Don't ask questions. This was part of the deal from the start." David hesitated. Something felt wrong. But the sharp, cold look in Anna's eyes left him no room to refuse. One evening during dinner, Anna unexpectedly brought up his father. Anna said, "Your father was quite the successful man, wasn't he?" David nodded timidly. "Yes, he was. But he also made mistakes." Anna smirked. "Mistakes? His mistakes cost a lot of people dearly. The consequences were devastating." David wanted to ask more, but Anna stood up and left the table, leaving him with a flood of unanswered questions. The longer David stayed in that house, the more he felt like a pawn in someone's carefully crafted plan. He couldn't understand why someone as wealthy and powerful as Anna would marry a poor man like him, someone with nothing but a massive debt. One day, David secretly watched Anna from afar as she spoke on the phone. Her voice was sharp, filled with bitterness, and she mentioned his father with unmistakable hatred. Anna said on the call, "That old man should have paid for what he did a long time ago, but now I'll make his precious son taste every ounce of that suffering." David froze. Her words cut through him like a knife. That's when he began to realize this marriage had nothing to do with love or loneliness. That night, David couldn't sleep. He sat in his room, staring at the pile of documents Anna had asked him to sign. He knew he had fallen into a trap, but he couldn't walk away. The debt had already been paid, and there was no safe way out of this marriage. What once felt like a cold mansion now became a prison. David couldn't help but wonder if he had made the worst mistake of his life. But for now, he knew one thing for certain. He needed to uncover the secrets that were slowly unraveling within those gloomy walls. On the 7th day after the wedding, David woke up in the vast mansion, feeling completely empty inside. Anna had suddenly disappeared without a word. Her bedroom was locked. On the table in the living room, a large envelope and a handwritten letter had been left for him. David opened the envelope. Inside were piles of documents showing an enormous debt. All under his name, the letter read, "David, I don't need your love or your care. I don't even need your gratitude. This marriage was only part of my plan to take revenge on your father. The man you always respected scammed me and left me with nothing. I spent half my life, with no husband, no children, rebuilding what he destroyed. Do you know what it feels like to lose everything? To live in despair, with nothing but hatred to survive on? The sins of the father are visited upon the son. Now you will bear everything he left behind. This debt, created by your father, is now yours. This isn't just payback for what he did, it's also a lesson for you. There is no easy price to pay for a family's wrongdoing. You will have to learn to live with the pain I've carried. David's hands trembled as he held the letter, sweat dripping from his palms. He couldn't believe that the wealthy woman he had just called his wife, Anna, had plotted revenge against him for a mistake his father made long ago. David cried out, "Dad, what did you do? Why am I the one suffering for this?" Looking through the papers, David noticed massive debts registered in his name, some he had never even heard of. Right then, his phone rang. A stranger's cold voice came through. "Mr. David, your debt is due. If you don't pay soon, don't blame us for what happens next." David panicked. Who are you?" "I didn't borrow money from anyone," the stranger replied. "You are the legal husband of Mrs. Anna. You might want to carefully review the documents she left for you. They all have your signature, right?" David froze. He remembered the stack of papers Anna had him sign on his first day at the mansion. At the time, he never imagined he was signing off on enormous financial obligations. With no other choice, David began digging into his father's past. He returned to his rural hometown, met with old acquaintances, searched through documents, and asked neighbors for information. Through fragmented conversations, David discovered that his father had once been a real estate businessman, but later, he got involved in major fraud schemes. He had taken advantage of Anna and her family's trust to steal their property. As a result, Anna lost everything: her home, her assets, and was left with nothing. One neighbor recalled, "Your father used to live in luxury, but nobody liked him. He cheated people and made enemies everywhere, but none of us knew he was tied to Anna." David was torn between anger and despair. He didn't know how to cope with the burden of his father's sins. While reviewing the debt documents, David noticed irregularities. Some had his signature, but the dates didn't match, or they were signed before he had even met Anna. This raised suspicion. He decided to consult a friend who was a lawyer. His friend said, "David, a lot of these aren't legally valid. It looks like someone deliberately forged documents to trap you." David asked, "Do you think Anna did this?" His friend replied, "I'm not sure. You'll need to investigate further. But if Anna was once deceived herself, is it possible that she's also being used now?" David now faced a painful conflict. It was clear Anna wanted revenge, but she might also be a pawn in a much larger scheme. He thought to himself, who is really behind all this? Is Anna taking revenge, or is she a victim too? From that moment, David realized that this wasn't just about debt. It was part of a far more complex conspiracy. As he dug deeper into the forged documents, David intensified his investigation. Through old records and conversations with people who once knew his family, he slowly uncovered a shocking truth. The person behind the scheme to destroy him was none other than his own uncle, Mr. Lamb. David sought out his late father's longtime friend, Mr. Twan, who had once worked closely with his dad. There, Mr. Twan revealed, "Your father and Uncle Lamb fought bitterly over the inheritance after your mother died. Lamb believed your father took most of the family fortune. When he couldn't get it back, he held a grudge and waited for the right time to strike." David was stunned. But how did his uncle get involved with Anna? Mr. Twan explained that it was his uncle who had rekindled Anna's hatred. He used her to bring down David's father, and now David himself. While David was trying to verify the information, Anna unexpectedly returned, but this time, she wasn't cold and distant. Her demeanor had changed, calm, even remorseful. Anna began to open up, David, I did you wrong. At first, I just wanted you to feel the pain I once went through and pay the price for what your father did. But when I saw you, I realized you're nothing like him. You're a good person, and I couldn't go through with the plan anymore. David looked at Anna, his face a mixture of anger and emotion. Then why did you let me fall into such a miserable situation? How did you plan to help me after burdening me with that enormous debt? Anna gently replied, I know I was wrong. But that debt, it didn't come from me. It was your uncle who added to it. I came back to help you get out of that trap. Anna revealed she had discovered that Uncle Lamb was the one behind it all. He had forged documents to make it seem like David deserved revenge. She decided to team up with David to uncover the truth. Together, they secretly gathered evidence, including forged financial documents and shady transactions linked to Uncle Lamb. Eventually, they confronted him in a private meeting. David, barely containing his rage, demanded, What did you do to my family? Why can't you just leave me alone? Uncle Lamb sneered, Leave you alone? Your father got what he deserved. And you're no better. You're the son of the man who took everything from me. David fired back. You say my father did wrong, but you're the one who trapped me, who used Anna to hurt me. Don't you see you're just as cruel? As Uncle Lamb turned to leave, Anna stepped in. Mr. Lamb, I trusted you. I thought you only wanted justice, but you used me as a tool to do your dirty work. I won't let you continue like this. With the evidence they had collected, David and Anna brought the case into the light. Uncle Lamb was arrested for fraud, forgery, and orchestrating a scheme against David. Thanks to Anna's help and the police investigation, David was cleared of all accusations and regained his honor. The massive debts were proven to be illegal and were wiped away. Before parting ways, Anna looked at David with deep regret. David, I made you suffer. But I hope you understand. Not everyone is cruel. Live with kindness. Don't let your father's past shadow your future. David bowed his head. He no longer felt anger toward Anna, only a quiet resolve to live better, so as not to repeat the mistakes of his family. Freed from debt and injustice, he decided to turn his life around. He gave up chasing shortcuts to wealth or running from hardships. David filed for divorce and returned to college to complete his studies. At the same time, he took on multiple part-time jobs to support himself. From morning to night, he worked tirelessly, waiting tables at a cafe, tutoring, and delivering packages. He no longer feared hardship. The painful lessons he'd learned stayed with him. Though Anna didn't interfere directly in his life, she quietly watched over him. She found ways to help without him knowing, contributing to his tuition through scholarships and asking friends to offer him job opportunities. One day, David found out by accident when the school principal informed him of an unexpected scholarship. There's a sponsor who wants to cover your tuition, the principal said, but they asked to remain anonymous. David hesitated. Was it Anna? The principal smiled. I can't say, but they believe you're worthy of the support. David felt Anna's kindness but chose to say nothing. He simply worked harder to prove himself. Through all the painful turns, David learned that the truth, no matter how bitter, must be faced. Running away only made him weaker. Facing it made him stronger. He couldn't change his father's past, but he could change how he lived and become someone others could trust. Someone responsible to himself and to society. From Anna, David learned that hatred blinds people, but forgiveness and compassion bring true peace after pain. Their relationship slowly improved. David visited her often, talking and sharing as a normal friend would. Sometimes she joked with him and even teased, "So, still my husband?" One day, David brought her a small bouquet of flowers. Anna smiled warmly. He said, You once told me I didn't need to atone for my father. I understand now, but I still want to do what's right, to make things right with life. Anna replied, "You've done well, David. I truly believe you have a bright future ahead." Life wasn't easy for David, but he cherished every opportunity. He knew that the hardships had shaped him into someone stronger. After years of effort, David graduated with a law degree and became a talented attorney. He no longer dreamed of quick success. Instead, he dedicated himself to helping the vulnerable, those who had been cheated or oppressed, like Anna once was. He opened his own small law office. As for Anna, once consumed by hatred, she had completely changed. Now, surrounded by David's care and respect, she finally felt a peace she had long been missing. One afternoon they sat at a table under the soft sunlight, sipping tea. David said, "You helped me realize there's nothing more valuable than living with kindness. Thank you for not letting hatred harden your heart." Anna smiled. "You helped me see that forgiveness doesn't just free others, it frees ourselves too." David understood that it was through confronting past mistakes and choosing to change that both he and Anna found light in their lives. Hatred only brings suffering, making life heavier and darker. But forgiveness and truth-telling unlock healing and genuine happiness. The value of compassion. No matter how hard life gets, kindness and sharing will always bring beauty into the world. Anna's spacious villa became a symbol of unity and love. In the golden light of evening, she and David sat together, eyes filled with contentment and peace. Thank you for following this emotional journey. Through David and Anna's story, we've learned that forgiveness and compassion are the keys to unlocking happiness. If you enjoyed this story and want more life lessons, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Ngon Den Story so you won't miss the next story. See you in the next episode, wishing you all a life full of hope and love.